Okay, so what we're doing today is I want to make an SVG file for the Cricut Maker so I can now cut these out on my Cricut Maker rather than do them by hand. Now these labels, I have been using these for quite some time now. They do what I needed to do. The only thing I did a minute ago is I went and cut out this spot here. I made the background of the photo a little bit bigger than where I want it cut. I actually want the cut line to go here along that white line. So I made a bleed on it so that if it was a little bit off when it went through Cricut Maker, then you wouldn't notice it as much. Let's face it, it could go through the printer, get a little bit turned a tiny bit. When we're laying it on our mat to go into the Cricut Maker, we might not be exact with it. So this just makes it a little bit less noticeable when there's a bleed on it. So I cut this part out of the bottom label because these are folded in half right here. So what I did is I took them, they overlapped, I folded it in half here, and then I had a circle cutter that once they were folded, I had a 2-inch circle cutter and it would cut it. So that's why they're 2 inches. So later on, I will probably do something a little bit better than this now that I have a Cricut Maker, and it'll likely be a little bit more elaborate, but I don't have time right now. We'll see later on once I get to it. It does what I needed to do right now. So for now, I set 2 of them up on here because I also had to cut out a little bit here so it didn't overlap with the bottom one. So I have this set up with a 1/4 inch border all the way around it, so it'll make sure it gets printed everything I need to print. Now what I'm using here, I'm using Affinity Designer. I love Affinity Designer. I love Affinity Photo. I love their products. And the reason being is in the past, these were originally made in Adobe Illustrator. And I'm in Canada, so I was paying $50 a month. And that's quite a bit, to pay out every month to make your labels and do a lot of other stuff that I do on here. But this here Affinity Designer does just as much that I need. It does everything I need it to do. And it's only $69 one-time fee. So, I can't beat that. I love it. When I first opened it and started using, it's similar to the Adobe product, so it's not that hard to get used to at all. Everything's pretty well the same, just a few different keystrokes. As you can see, the layout's similar, the layers, and so on. So I'll put a link. I have Affinity Designer, Affinity Photo, and I also bought the Affinity Publisher as well, although I haven't really been using that. But they're only $69 each, a one-time fee, that's it. So I'll put a link to that below, and you can have a look at that on your own. Okay, so now I set both of these up. They're lined up perfectly here, and I have them each grouped in their own group. So what I want to do is make the SVG file to go on top to tell Cricut Maker to cut it. So first of all, I need to start building the cut file. So basically, it's a circle. I'm going to make that, I'm going to make it a 1 point. And down here, I'm going to tell it that it's 2 inches tab and 2 inches high and 2 inches wide. Oops, that changed slightly. Oh, that's because I have that linked here. So I'm going to unlink that. So 2 and 2. Okay, so right now I'm going to take it and just take the opacity down a bit so I know that I have that lined up directly with this. Now what I could do as well, maybe to make it a little bit easier, I could take this group and then take the ellipse. Oops, I can't do that. Okay, I'm going to take that group and hold my control button. I'm going to take that ellipse that I just made, and I'm going to center them. First of all, what I'm going to do with this tier label, I'm going to lock it. Unlock that label, unlock this label, because I don't want them to move now that I have them set up. Okay, so now I can take the ellipse, and I keep holding the shift key down. I don't want to hold the shift key. I want to hold that, and I want to hit the control key because I don't want to pick up all that stuff in the middle. So we'll line that up like that and like that. So they didn't move very much. I was pretty close there. Okay, so back out of this a bit. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that and copy it. Control C to copy, Control V to paste it. And if I hold my shift key down, this will come down straight. Okay, try to line it up. Those white lines is where the 2-inch line is. Now, of course, I can do the same thing as I did on the other one. I can grab the ellipse on the one below it, and I can grab this one here that I just made, and I can center them. So then I don't have to try to eye it, which makes it a little bit easier. Okay, so look, that's lined right on top of that white line, and that's where the cut's going to be. So I'm going to back out of that. Now I am going to join these two and make a group out of that. And I might as well turn the opacity up on it. Actually, I should have turned the opacity up on them before I grouped them. But I can do that and go in individually and turn the opacity up. There we go. Whoops. Yep, no, that worked. Okay, so now that we have them grouped, as you can see, they're overlapped here. That's where they're going to cut. So I need to, actually, I don't know if I've ever done this with them grouped before. No, I can't group them yet. So Control Shift G will ungroup them. I have to join them first before I group them. And Shift and hit that plus button here, and that'll join them. So see? So now it's all one object, and Cricut Maker will know once we send it to take it and cut all along there. Now what I should have showed you in the beginning is this here back page has to be transparent. So normally what you would do is go into Document Setup and go into Color and hit Transparent Background. If I take that off, that turns it all white, and that's the way it was here a while ago. So I'm going to go back in and make sure that's transparent. Okay, so now that object, I want to take that and copy it down to the lower one. Control C, Control V. Hold the Shift key down and drag, or Shift key and drag it down here. Make sure you pick up your mouse first before you let go of the Shift key. Okay, so now I want to line that up with these below it. I don't know how good that's going to work. First of all, I'm going to take the opacity down. And I think what I'm going to do, first of all, well, I already know it's lined up that way. So let's see if it's lined up here. No, it isn't. It's not perfect. You can see here. So I just need to take that. I'm going to turn off my snapping key because I just need to move this a tiny bit. Oops, which isn't that easy to do. So that looks pretty darn good to me. I think that's lined up pretty good. Okay, so now I'm going to turn the opacity back up on that. Okay, so now that they're right where I want them to be, I'm going to group. Actually, I'm going to group these all together. Let me minus out here first. I want to group these all together. Control G. Now I'm just going to copy them across the page. So I can hold down the Alt key and hold the Alt key down, grab it with my mouse and bring it over. And that didn't bring everything because you know why? Control Z. Control Z, Control Z, because I have these bottom two locked. So I need to unlock those now. Okay, now I can grab everything, group it all together, and hold down the Alt key and bring it all over. There we go. Just what we wanted to do. So let's do it again. Just keep bringing them over. Let's keep bringing them over. I don't know how many I can fit on here. It'd be nice to get one more on there. I know that. Alt. Bring that over. Okay. So I just want to double check over here and see how close I am to that 1/4 inch mark where I have it marked. Whoops, I need that. Where I have it. There we go. Now that probably will. I know it'll cut it out on the Cricut Maker, and I'm not printing that on here anyway, so I suppose it doesn't really matter. But let's line it up with this anyways. There we go. Okay. Now I don't have to worry about the other way because I want to make sure that they're all lined up with these ones. So I'm going to choose this one first, and then I'm going to choose the rest of them. And all I want to do is make sure they're all centered together. So there. They should be all together there. Now the other thing I want to do is make sure they're distributed apart. So they're going to look at the front one, look at the back one, and distribute in the middle. So I'd hit this button here, and that should distribute them evenly. Okay, perfect. So now everything's right where we need it to be. So while I have this on here, I need to put these little squares here on the corner of the sheet. And what that does, it tells Cricut Maker where the edge of the sheet is, like the 8.5 by 11. So that I want that 1/4 inch. So I'm going to go down here and put 0.25, tab 0.25, and I'll bring that up and put it in the corner here. Now, if I look down here, that's perfect. 0, 0. I know that's right in the corner. So now I'm going to copy. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so I can grab it a little easier. I'm going to copy and paste that. Actually, I'll hold the Alt key down and grab it and bring it over. And I tell it the X is 10.75 because the sheet's 11 inches long and 0. So that's right on the edge of that. So let's come out of there now. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick these are all groups. So I need to ungroup it. So Control-Shift-G will ungroup that. I think I can ungroup these all together probably. Control-Shift-G. But I know it won't. Oh, it did too. Control-Z moves it back. I didn't think it was going to take it off of all of them. Oh, it did good. Okay. So basically, I just want to pick up the template part of it, and I need to keep it separate and put it in its own group away from the print file. So the SVG file and the print file would be two separate groups on their own. So if I hold the Shift key down and just pick up each one of these individually, and I also want these little corner marks to go in with it as well. Actually, you know what I should have did before I did that? I think I'm pretty good anyways. Normally, I would center it in the center of the page. I need to take these out first. Actually, I'm not going to take them out. I'm just not going to grab them yet. Okay, so I'm going to grab all this, and I have to group it in order to center it. So everything's going to be grouped. And I'm going to hit center it on the artboard that way and that way. I don't think it moved much. It might have moved a tiny bit, but it's all centered. So we know that. Okay, so that's still right where I need it to be. That's where I need it to be. So now I'm going to ungroup it again. Control-Shift-G. Those should be still apart. Yes, they are. Control-Z to move that back, to undo what I just did. So let's select these individually. If I hold down the Shift key, and grab these little rectangles in the corner here and Control G. Okay. Now, see, hold on my right mouse key, arrange, move to front. So now they're all in the front. So they're right at the top of that page. Okay, and I'm going to go in, I'm going to rename this Cricut Maker, or Cricut, I guess. Usually I put that in capital letters. Whoops. That way it stands out a little bit for me. Not that it doesn't stand out already. Okay, so let's shut that off. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and print this file. And go to File and Print. So everything's lined up here. I'm hoping this box is showing up. And hit OK. I'm getting really low on ink here, but I like to use it right to the end, so I'm hoping this is going to print okay for us. And I'll probably pause this just until we're done printing. Okay, I guess what I wish I kind of had done is I went through all that trouble to make this bleed that I didn't take those lines off of this. So if it is a little off, it's going to show that up there. But I'm not going to worry about this time. We'll just keep our fingers crossed and hope that it's right on where it's supposed to be. Okay. So what I need to do now is take these. I'm going to group these together. Get my arrow here. Okay, let's group all the, whoops, I went and grabbed the whole artboard. I'm going to hit Control Z, undo what I just did. Back out of this a bit. Okay, why do I keep doing that? Control Z, stop that. Okay, there we go. I must have been too close to the corners. Okay, so Control G, I'm going to group that, and over here, I'll call that lavender. I don't think I need to put bath bombs in there again. It's everywhere else. Okay. So now I'm going to shut this off and turn that back on. Now what we're going to do is we're going to send this to the Cricut Maker. So let's go up to File, hit Export. SVG file is where we're at. I don't export whether I hit that or not. I don't know whether it makes any difference or not. There's no sense sending any extra memory that you don't need. So I'm going to hit export there. And you can see I've had this on here a few times because I've been testing everything out. So bath bomb Cricut label video capture. Okay, so this is the bath bomb Cricut label. Let's take this out. And that's the name of my SVG file. Bath bomb Cricut label. I just have to remember that and hit save. Okay, so now if I go into Cricut, and I have that all set up here, I'm going to hit new project. Okay, and we're going to go hit down, upload image, browse file, bath bomb Cricut label, open that, hit upload, and then choose that file and hit add to canvas. They used to say something different, but they just did an update on it. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change this to 8.5, and we'll just, or sorry, not 8.5, it's 11. It's landscape, it's 11. And it automatically put it at 8.5, so that's a good sign right there. That means your corners are in the right place. And you want to make sure that both the X and the Y axis say 0. Now, one time I had a problem trying to get that at 0. It wouldn't stay there. And the reason was I had metric on, put it in the 0 mark, and then I change it to imperial because I want to use the 8.5 or 11 by 8.5, and it will not let me put the y-axis to 0. So in order to fix that, I had to go back into settings, change it back to metric, change this to 0, and then I went back and changed it to imperial, and the 0 stayed fine. So that was just a little problem I run into that I thought I should mention just in case something like that ever happened to you. Because with the update, it changed my settings that I had set there from imperial to metric. So I wasn't expecting it when I brought it in. Okay, so now that's positioned right where we want it positioned. The first thing we're going to do is change these little page. I got to come up with a name with them. Basically, what they do is they anchor your page right where it should be. I'm going to change that to a pen because I don't want it to cut those corners out. I don't like it when it does that. Sometimes it will grab the paper if it's not quite set laying down right. And what's the sense of it cutting something that I don't need cut? So we change that to a pen. And everything else here should be fine except for this. This basic cut, what that does is it goes around and cuts out the whole outside of the page. And I don't need it to do that. It doesn't need to be cut. It's already cut that size. So all you have to do there is turn off the eye on that. So the other thing we need to do as well is we need to add the score line. So hit score line. And an easy way to turn that, if you hold your shift button down, it changes it. Like if I go to change that, you got to, try to get it and line it up perfectly. So I'm just going to hit Control Z to put it back where it was. So if you hold down your shift key, it moves it in, so many degrees at a time. So you can get it right horizontal, right where you want it at the 0. So take that, and I need it to fit right in that line there. Now, I'm going to show you something else that I do as well, just to make sure that's right exactly where I want it to be. I'm going to go back into Designer and zoom right in here, and I want to see where it is on here. So when I move that, if you notice right there, right where I have my cursor, it says 2.221. So now I'm going to go back into Cricut Maker, and up here I'm going to put 2.221, enter. So that's my y-axis where that's located. So now I just want to duplicate that score line, bring it back down here, snug it right into the left-hand side, go back into Designer, come down and check the other line and see that's not even where it's supposed to be. So I have to put that, and that says 6.229, and that's in inches too. So you have to make sure they both match. So 6.229. Okay, so those score lines are right where we need them to be. So now what we have to do is attach everything. So you hold your shift button down and grab that and grab everything below it and then hit attached. That keeps everything right where it's supposed to be. And then we're going to hit make it. Continue. You can see here it says it needs a score, a pen, and a basic cut. We don't need a pen. There's a spot on it for a pen. I don't bother putting a pen in it. I mean, I'm not using it, don't need it. So we'll just leave it the way it is. Okay, and then I need to go to the Cricut Maker now. Okay, so these are our labels here. I want to make sure I place these on here the same way that they printed off my printer or they were laid out in Affinity Designer. Also, this part here, this is a sheet that I have set up specifically for my landscape print, the 11 by 8.5. And that's something maybe I'll show you a little bit later how to set that up. But if you want to know really, really quick, actually what you can do, that file I just did, when I shut the eye off of the basic cut that goes all around the end of the paper, I could shut all the other eyes off on it and turn that one on, and with the painter's tape, put it through with just the painter's tape, and then peel that off and turn that eye back off for the basic cut all the way around, and turn your other ones all back on, set your sheet down, and you're ready to go. So that's just kind of a really quick explanation on how to set that up. Okay, so you want to make sure to, I mean, this is getting a little bit worn around here as well. I should probably make a new one. And because, you know, here's another way you could be a little bit off on your cuts. And the other thing to keep in mind too is you should make sure that your machine is calibrated. I don't have a brayer, so I just use the edge of my ruler here, which seems to be working fine. Okay. Let me pull the Cricut Maker ahead a little bit so you can see it a little better. And I need to put in my score tool. Now, and I normally hold this the same way every time I do it too. So I basically put it towards my left side. Load it, and there we go. Hit that button. Now normally you can tell right off the bat if it's lined up. And you know what? It is lined up. I can tell by looking at the score lines whether it's in place or not. So I think we might be good here. Okay, so let's take out the score tool, put in the cut tool, and hit the go. Score line's a little bit hard to see, but and as you notice, I did go in a little bit later and take those circles off of there. Actually, that's showing that's a little bit close on the end, but we'll see what happens here by the time they're all done. Anyway, I took those circles off, and actually I didn't delete them off there. All I did was change them to clear. So if I never need to go back in later and line up a template again or put a different bath bomb on there, then it's all set up and ready to go. So that's looking pretty good. Actually, the first one looked like it was overlapping the ingredients slightly. And, you know, like I probably put it on there slightly sideways. I have it pretty tight to the edges. So maybe I do need to be just a little bit more careful on what I'm putting inside of those circles, which is something to take into consideration as well. But I'm pretty happy with these. So I'd say definitely, you know, have a look at Affinity Designer and Affinity Photo if you're using Adobe. It'll save you a ton of money. The Cricut Maker definitely saves a lot of time. You know, it took me a little bit of time to set up this template to print this when I could have just printed off and did it the old-fashioned way. But, you know, it takes a little bit of time the first time, but now that this is all set up, then it's no problem. Every time I need to run these bath bomb labels through, I just run them through again and it's all ready to go. Just coming up to the last one here. And I'm probably going to change these down the road a little bit now that I do have a Cricut Maker. Just, I already have an idea in my head. And my bath bombs are heart shaped, so I think the packaging is going to be similar to that. Okay. Well, look at that. Now you can see, careful taking this off. Now I put that bleed on there, which I think was a big help as far as showing any kind of errors or whatever in it. And if you notice this one here, you know, a few of them are, you know, running off the hazel, but you can still read that and see that it does, you know, it says hazel. So, and actually those ones are a little bit off too. So, I mean, if I pull that in a little bit to the middle, and the other important thing to do as well is, now this machine just updated in the middle of me making these. So I don't know, it's probably not a bad idea just to calibrate your printer to your machine, which is important to do anyways, especially after an update. I'm not sure if that's the problem, or I'm probably the problem, no doubt. But so these I just fold up, and I don't even have any bath bombs here right now. I just loaded up the stores. So they're shaped like a heart. I just put them on and staple them on to it. So pretty nice. Okay, so that's this part of it right here. So we'll stop this and go back to anything else. Okay, so that's finished. And you just want to make sure you save your project, which I already did save it. Okay, just one more thing before we leave here I want to show you, and that's if you feel that your cut is a little bit off one way or the other, and you know for sure that it wasn't you that laid it on the mat a little bit sideways or whatever, there is something that you can do to go into Cricut Maker and straighten that out. The first thing you have to do is detach this. So we'll detach it. Now, you want to make sure these here corner anchors, that's a good name for them, corner anchors are at the top. So you can grab those and move them to the top. And I had to ungroup that first, actually, and move that up there. So you just want to choose this group here. So everything at the bottom. You might have to hold down your shift key and grab everything but them one way or another, and then these are already grouped. So if they're not grouped, they have to be grouped in order for this to work. So make sure you group it first. And then see this right up here? So, oh, I gotta click the group again. That's all I want to choose. I don't want these things moving. That's still where my anchor, my page is gonna be. You can move this up or down, just a couple, you know, millimeters or whatever. And either way, you can move it that way or that way. So you can make those changes, run a test through, and if you find that seems to fit and it's fitting every time, then that's perfect. You can leave it like that. But there is that is one way that you can fix your cut, and that's if you're already calibrated machine and you've already made sure that you're putting everything the way it should be laid out on the mat. So I'm going to go back in. I guess I don't really have to ungroup these. So now I want to go back in and reattach. I want to attach everything so everything's right where it's supposed to be. So, okay, that's it there. Okay, so here we are. We're at the end, and you're still with me. We made it, and I certainly want to thank you if you're sticking with me right to the end of it, that's for sure. But I just wanted to take a quick moment and show you some of my other packaging that you may be interested in watching a video on those as well. Some of these are very simple, you know, somewhat similar to the label I just showed you with the bath bomb. Some are a little bit more complicated, like this bath T1. I'm now able to cut these notches in it with the Cricut Maker, and I'm also able to put these scalloped edges on it. So I can kind of show you a little bit about how I design those and then how I set them to be cut. And then this one here especially, look, there's the old packaging I had on it there, and there's the new packaging. Nice little box. that I put them in that can hang up on the shelf. And I really like that. It looks a little bit retail-y, and I don't like it looking too retail-y, but the only way I could change that is probably changing the color of it to something like that, or even to one of these colors here. And then you've already seen probably a video on my soaps and how I do those, but just cutting them, not setting it up. So that's it for now. Thanks for watching. I hope you go away learning something from this video. I know I'm certainly learning a lot, so I thank you guys for that. I use DaVinci Resolve to edit my videos, and this is only my second time using it. So I'm learning a lot there for sure. And so if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you want to see some more, I know I'll be doing a few on these. Subscribe to the channel, and you all have a naturally nice day.